going now? Let's just check my audio. Just wait for it to start. Oh, audio's rather quiet. Another listen. Okay, I think that's going now. No, I can check my audio. Audio's rather quiet. Okay, I think I'm good now. Hello everybody and welcome to UK Diesel Electric Railway Modelling, and Happy New Year to you as well. I had a nice Christmas and New Year. I went down to Devon to visit a friend, and yeah, I had a good time. So I travelled down on the 18th of December. I stayed with my friend for 10 days. Came back home on the 27th. And I was fortunate because there was a bit of a problem with the trains because it was quite stormy. So my friend lives in Plymouth, and to get to Plymouth you've got to go down the Dawlish Sea Wall. And it was a little bit on the windy side, and it was high tide. And so there's a very unusual, amusing thing. I say amusing in a rather cynical sense. And that's that voyagers aren't allowed down the seawall during high tide when it's stormy. And the reason is because the voyagers, let me see if I can find a picture so you can see what I mean. But the voyagers are rainproof, but they're not salt waterproof. And so the kind of trains that they are, they're diesel electric multiple units. So they've got a diesel engine in between the bogies, and they have let me see if I can sort out the mic. Let's just make sure this is the right one. Yeah, the volume's turned up to the top. Let me check in my sound settings. Let's whack that up to 100. Yeah, that will be better. Okay, is that any better now? You can hear a bit of echo because I'm going to speak to myself, listen to myself. Let's whack that up to 100. Okay, that sounds better. That will be better. Okay, is that any better now? Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, I'm a bit happier now. Okay, let me go through it again. Oh, I crashed. That's a bit annoying. Okay, good. Okay, well, I'll start again. So, Happy New Year, everybody. Hope you had a good Christmas and New Year. I did. I went down to visit a friend in Plymouth, and I went down on the 18th and came back home on the 27th, so I was there for 10 days. And I went down on the train. Fortunately, my friend, his brother, has works for cross country, so they can get like friends and family tickets. So I was fortunate that I was able to do that. So so on the way down I had a little bit of a problem, and that was that the trains were cancelled as far as they went up beyond Exeter. And that's because the day that I was going down, it was a little bit on the breezy side, to say the least, and it was rainy, and it was high tide. And cross-country voyagers, well, voyagers in general, they have a bit of a glitch to them, and that's that they're rainproof, but they're not salt waterproof. So when you've got the waves splashing up against the sea wall, and there's haze, the spray going over the top, they just don't work properly. And the reason is for this. I'm going to see if this works now. Yes, that seems to be working. So, so a Voyager is a diesel-electric multiple unit, and it has an engine underneath, and then attached to the axle box, attached to the axles, are electric motors. So, unlike a normal diesel multiple unit, which would have, you know, a drive shaft and a gearbox, which then goes to power the bogies, these work differently. So they got more power. Basically, they're more efficient in that way, but of course they weigh more. However, one of the advantages is that you got a lot of torque, obviously, with a traction motor, but you also have you can also reverse the current and use it as dynamic braking. So you don't have to use the brake blocks as much, or the discs, the disc brake as much. So it means less wear and tear, which is better. However, unlike an electric unit, where they can take reverse that current and then feed it up through the pantograph, so effectively, reducing the amount of energy it ends up using, it pumps it back into the system. Unlike regenerative braking, they can't do that on these. The only way they can do it is to, expend the energy somewhere. And the way the energy is done is by heat energy, and there's a big massive radiator on the roof. If you look, you can see the big massive radiator on the roof, and that gets rid of the heat energy. Well, because of all the diesel engine and all that kind of stuff underneath, they got the electrics on the roof. And what happens is, when the spray goes over the top, the computer on board says, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do, because salt water is conductive. So it triggers the computer to get malfunctions, and the computer goes, I don't know what to do with this, and shuts down. And that's the reason why historically they had all these problems with the with the Dawlish Sea wall and cross-country trains. So whenever it's breezy, they're not allowed to go down there if it's high tide. And the last time that the shipping forecast with the tides and the railway timetable had to coincide was when they had fish trains. But now it's needed all the time. So there you go. That's so as a result, I ended up having to switch trains. So I had one of those from Manchester down all the way down, and it was supposed to go to Paignton, so I was going to change it extra anyway. And then when I got down to Exeter, they were allowing cross-country ticket users to use their to work on Great Western ones. So I ended up having to go on one of these. That was an 802, not an 800 as this is. So it was quite nifty having a first try on one of those. And they're okay. A little bit on the rattly side, not as good as HSTs. Certainly better than Voyagers. I can't stand Voyagers. But that's the way that was. And then on the way back, I had the distinct pleasure to, deliberately, because I checked the timetable, and I managed to get one of these back to Manchester, back to Sheffield, back to Birmingham New Street on the way home, which was cool. And not only that, I managed to travel in first class as well, which was quite lucky because it was quite a busy train that day. So yeah, that was quite kind of cool. So yeah, out of the colour schemes, I think this is probably one of the better of the privatised ones. But so yeah, that was my trip away. I didn't even take my video camera or photo camera. My photo camera's not working very well at the moment. It keeps. I've got to buy a new lens because for some reason the mechanism in it is stopping it contacting the camera, and so as a result it just fuzzes out. So it's really frustrating. So, hello Cosmo. Hello everybody. Hello. So, so what am I going to talk about today? Well, today I'm going to talk about a couple of things. I'm going to talk about some modelling New Year's resolutions I've got for myself, and I'm going to talk about what I like to see from Hornby and Bachmann. They're going to be releasing their 2020 list of things that they would like to do in the next year or two, or 5, or however long it takes for Bachmann to do theirs. Because Bachmann, you know, they do some great stuff, but when it comes to getting stuff done, you may wait a while. I mean, I was flicking through an old Bachmann catalogue from, I think it was 2014, and the new thing that was going to be coming out in the next, 2014, 2015 was going to be the Class 158. It's been released in a matter of weeks ago, so a little bit delayed. So but like I say, with Bachmann you do get the quality, you just have to wait a while for new things to arrive. I think a part of me wonders if they should just not bring any new stuff out for a couple of years, no new model, new mouldings, and be able to catch up with the stuff that they want to get done. So I don't know, but so so what is it I would like to see from? Well, I'm going to start with Hornby. Now, last year there's a video on this channel, and I was quite bad on Hornby, and the reason is, and I've seen this for years now. It's not like 1 or 2 years, it's been many years. At least 6 years. I'm hoping now that Simon Kohler's back, maybe things will change, a little bit more. But at the moment, for the last, probably the best, at least 6 years, I'd say, it has been multiple new steam train releases and 1, maybe 2 diesel electric ones. And, one of the things I think Hornby needs to realise that, yes, the main people buying stuff today is, older people who remember the old stuff. They're doing steam era stuff, and now they're going into steam diesel stuff as well. So, new diesel stuff, they're going to buy that as well. And then you get other modelers that just say, you know what, I like an Intercity 125, so I'm going to buy one of them for my layout anyway. Even though my layout's a steam era layout, I'm going to buy some diesel electric stuff because I think they're good. I like them. So people do that, but it would appear that, Hornby don't seem to think that diesel electric stuff, needs new stuff so much. And there are so many things that could be done. Now, when it comes to locos, they're pretty much all done now. What can you do now? A Class 81 to 84? I can't really think of anything else that hasn't been done. 89001. Those are about the only locos that are left. So as a result, I think the angle that they should go for is DMUs, a 104. It'd be nice to see a 104. No one's ever brought a model of one out. There are multiple liveries. You got everything from original green with yellow panels, BR blue, blue grey, Network Southeast, the Mexican bean, sort of maroon and cream colour. So, that and loads of little little markings here and there. For example, 104s used to work out of Buxton in 3-car sets. So having someone with like a Buxton thing, which would go with something that Better with Bachmann did. That kind of thing. I think that would be a good thing to do. Another thing that I think would be well worth them doing, let me just change And again, this isn't something that I need in particular, but I think that they could do with doing one of these, a 377, or basically an Electro Star. And Electro Stars have a wide range of things. You know, 375s. So if we look, let's go to. So we've got 375s in the original colour scheme that they carried. In fact, there you go, that's more like it. Oh no, sorry. They've started putting grey towards the end. They'd only just release these into traffic then, although you can see from the front end it's splattered into a lot of flies. But, you know, so this is the original scheme that they did. So we got that. And then... and that should be there. And now they're in blue. So there's another colour scheme. And then there's the white and grey version. So that's 3 of that type. And like I say, they're largely the same thing, mainly 4-car units. Then you've got the 377s, so you've got, as I already mentioned, southern ones. This is a 3-car set. There are 4-car sets. I think, if I remember correctly, there's even 5-car sets around. So, oh, the computer's hung a bit. Blue circly thing. Come on. Oh, my computer's gone and hung itself again. Come on, this is just crazy. Okay. There we go. Sorry about that. My computer's acting a bit funny at the moment. I need to redo it all. But anyway. So yeah, so we got a number of those. You've also got, although it was fairly short time span, the 3775s, which were the dual voltage ones, so pantographs and third rail. They worked on the Thameslink line before the Class 700s came into service. It's possible, but it would be a different body. The underframe's largely the same, but you could have a 378 which has the sliding doors rather than the plug doors. This was a cheaper version, and the 376 follows the same general design. So you got those. Then for overhead wires, you've got the 377s, which are the Stansted Express ones. And then, and finally, oh, sorry, wrong one. It's 387. And then we've got Class 387s, which were originally used on the sort of Thameslink area line. And there are some Gatwick Express ones. Here's one test. There you go. So there's the Gatwick Express one. You can see there's 3 units there. That's a long train. And then finally, you've got the GWR ones. Now I think the GWR ones a 387 would be a great addition to Hornby's range, because you've already got it in multiple paint jobs. There are some body side pieces that would be different, so you can see how the windows are individual panes rather than the other versions which have like a recessed piece. So if they did it with a bit like Bachmann did with their 158, 170 and 165, where it's got body, a roof, ends and body sides, maybe if they had different body sides that could clip on, or just have a mould where they've got different types of body side moulds, so they can just pop a different mould on and a section of a mould. Because the way that moulds work is it's basically a big chunk of metal with different pieces that slot on, and then they squirt plastic into it, and then when it's cooled, out it pops as a completed body shell. And the flash lines that you get where you've got different parts of the mould, that's where you'll get that on the model as well, where a tiny bit of plastic is pushed out. So yeah, I think a 387 would fit to their range, because it would go with their Class 800s and it'd go with their Great Western HSTs that came out a couple of years ago. So I think it fits in with the range very nicely. A 377 in the southern colours, well, if you do the southern region, there are dozens of them, just loads and loads and loads of them, and you can chuck in the Gatwick Express one there as well. So, like I say, I think it's a model that has a lot of legs on it. Another unit that I think would be well worth doing, that's modern image, would be a Class 175 and Class 180. Now, these are actually, a 180 and 175 are the same thing. The only difference is the cabs. When you look at the design, they are the same all over. It's only that cab section onwards that's different. So if they could do a moulding where you've got basically a end, roof, sides, complete piece, a complete body shell, and then just have a glued on end, then that would enable Bachmann or Hornby to produce one of these, or the is it doing it again? Not responding. Here it goes again. Sorry about this. It's my computer. It's not working fully at the moment. What happened was I bought a new computer off my friend for Christmas, and I brought it back in my suitcase, and I'm not sure, maybe I've got something not quite plugged in or set up right on the new machine, so I'm currently using my old machine, and I took the hard drive, an SSD from my old computer, took it down to use with the new one, so I had data from what I've been doing recently, and when I went to put it back in the old computer that I'm using now, it basically went, oh, you've gone and changed something, or it's been accessed by a different operating system, or it's been used in a different computer. Oh well, we're going to have to reset everything. So I had to install all my programs, and because it's kind of trying to be two different, I don't know, some glitch has gone and popped into it, so whatever it is. But yeah, let me just open up another one of these for 180, and you'll be able to see what I mean. So units, DMU, 3rd gen, 180. So let me make that wide but small and zoom it in, and do the same with this one. And then you can see that they're basically the same thing. This is actually this end and it's this end, so they're on the wrong other side. But you can see big blank space, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 windows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 windows, another blank space, door, and the end piece. And then underneath, all these are both the same. You can see, look, that one, actually this is the same side. So that one, these two, that's a little bit different. Maybe it is the other side. But you can see what I mean. They're the same thing. So can I have a... Did I have details there? Maybe that's it. No. No. Let's compare this driving vehicle. There you go, okay. So we compare these two driving vehicles here. We can see how the roof panel's the same. That is there, that bit is there, that bit is there. I mean, it's just a different cab that's glued on the end. So those bits are the same, that bit's the same, these bits are the same. Do you see what I mean? So it's the same unit. It's the same unit with a different cab and different gearing. Because these ones are designed for up to 125 miles an hour. These ones are for 90 or 100, I can't remember now. So yeah, I think it would be really cool. And I put things in liveries generally, so you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different liveries and variations of as well. Because 180s, you know, it carried the original Great Western livery with Great Western branding, and then later on they had you know, they had Hull Trains branding as well. Like these. So these were the Hull Trains ones. Can't really tell. I did take some photos of the sides. There you go. These are my pictures. So I basically walked the train. I think these would be good for Hornby because they do have a portfolio of high-speed trains, and these, you know, these are high-speed trains. One of the things I always loved about the 180s, I don't know, a part of me would get one just for the hell of it, even though it's not in my modelling period. I did love the way that they blended the white into the yellow. That looked really smart. So, you know, but they even had the Northern Rail branding, Northern, you know, and they just changed the pink to a purple. You know, it was a short-lived thing. I wish they'd have kept hold of some, but they didn't. And then you got the Grand Central ones, which to me look like they're sponsored by Nike. You know, with that stripe going down. But so yeah, I think that, you know, this has a lot of options. But yeah, I already mentioned that one of the things that would be nice to see would be a class 104. Like this. So just the front vehicle's a 104 here. So 104, that would probably fit very well in Bachmann's range, because they've already got a 64-foot chassis, so it might only be the bits in between the bogies that look a bit different, but the bogies are fairly standard, and they lasted a long time. You know, you got your old Banger Blue era, Stockport. I mean, crikey, look at that, they just dumped them off the track. Yeah, it'd be nice to see something like that. And then you have the Network Southeast ones, which that's a bit better. So this is a 104, 101 and 117 unit there. One thing to mention though, there were two centre cars. I don't remember ever seeing them being in use, and all the 107 sets were always brake coaches. So that could possibly save them some money. That's a 108. But yeah, I think that would be nice. And if we look at first generation, what has not come out yet? No 107, which is similar to a 108, but it's a Derby heavyweight, and the tumble home is a bit different. A 114, which was here we go. So a 108, sorry, a 114, which is basically a stretched version of a 108. A 108 has got three large windows and one small window. This has got an extra compartment, and this section here is back to front. So on a 104, it would be 1, 2, 3 large windows and a small window, but it's on a shorter chassis. So Bachmann could do that quite easily, I think. And the other nifty thing, of course, are the DPUs. You know, the Royal Mail postal units. I have a DC kit of one of these. I started the bodies, but realised I made some mistakes on it, so I'm going to redo them. But oh, was it stuck again? Yes, I think it's stuck again. This is going to be a nuisance. Yeah, there it goes. So yeah, the 104s, basically all they did was they removed the seating, stuck a roller shutter door in it, one in the driving vehicle, 2 doors in the trailer vehicle, and they used it for putting mail in. And it was for routes where they really didn't need a loco and coaches. So, for example, Manchester to Cardiff or Crewe to Cardiff, something like that. There we go, back. And of course, that would go with the that'd go well with the 128. In fact, I think. There's a 114 and 128 set. So yeah, it would be nice to see that. So what else have we got? 115s. So 115s were forecast sets that we use on the Aylesbury Marylebone line. Just getting a drink. 116, like a 117, but has the destination blind So like a 117, but has got a destination blind and sometimes a lamp when it's been removed. So there's an example of one without the lamp. I meant to show you 115s as well. So 115s are quite somewhat different. I mean, they're largely the same as a 117, except for that they have a much smaller brake van section. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 7, sorry, passenger doors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah, 7 passenger doors before the guard section. On another type, on a 117 type, it's only got 6, so it's a larger brake compartment there. Of course, the usefulness is that because they all the driving vehicles for the 115s had a brake van, so instead of having one big brake van, they had one, two. They had one at the other end. Let's see if I've got any wider angled ones now. So, yeah, so you've got that. 118, very much like a 117, except for the box on the top is much sort of rounder. It's not quite as flat. The design is largely the same. On all the design, they've got some little window variations, but not very much really. Largely the underframe is pretty much very much similar as well. So yeah, when I first started noticing trains, when I lived in Devon, they used to use them quite a lot. And there was the rather interesting one, which was the BT one. So this rather bright one, which I travelled on between Exeter and Barnstaple, and it just, like I say, bright yellow with these radar dish or satellite dish. So lots of really interesting details on. That'd be a limited edition type of thing, wouldn't it? This is it when it'd been withdrawn. But then a 119. So 119 is similar to a 114. In terms of size, it's a 64-foot long chassis. However, they used to have a buffet car. They used to have a buffet car. I think it might have even been a griddle, but there was a little micro buffet in there, and quite a large guards section, because they were used for the more express routes. So it would be longer distance ones and not stopping at all the little local stops in between. I have a kit of one of these, which I'm going to turn into a Network Southeast one. So something like this, except for it'll be a 3-car set. So yeah, I'm going to do one of those. And when the Haljan 128 spares were on House of Oxford, I got a whole bunch of middle bits, so I've got enough parts to do all the underframe as well. So yeah, these are snazzy little units. They do things like Red Hill to Reading, Guildford to Reading, things like that. So they go onto the southern region. In fact, here's one going past Tunbridge West Yard, if I'm correct. So yeah, 127s are possible. Now, 127s used to be. There used to be. I think it was I think it was 3 or 4 cassettes that would go on the Bedford to St Pancras services before they electrified it in the late 70s, or was it early 80s? I think it was the early 80s. Yeah, it was the early 80s. And so when they didn't need them anymore, these were diesel hydraulic multiple units, which were a bit different. And there's one being scrapped. But they used to be basically a 118 style, but with a diesel hydraulic gearbox system. So, but you know, again, if they've got the chassis, doing a new body for it, that could get them extra sales. So, you know, those are some thoughts. Then we've got other ones. You know, then we've got the more unlikely things. So we've got a class 100, which you know, have an interesting shape to them. I quite like this sort of curved, you know, strange, you know, quite an overhang they have. So you got those 103s, which again were quite rare. They didn't have they didn't last very long. They were non-standard fairly quickly. That's one of my local stations. So yeah, there was one that lasted for a long time, which was a Derby Railway Technical Centre one. So 105 already exist. There's Hornby many years ago, before I was born, I think, did a 104, which is very similar to a 108. In fact, 104. Try again. A 110. This is a class 110, and many people have to make a 104. They've converted the Hornby 110 and just changed the end to make it into a 104. So there's not much difference between them. One of the main things that they had in the Leeds sort of area was that because there were a lot of hills, they tend to have you know, more powerful units, so they, you know, less likely to get power trailers. It would normally be power twins. Then we've got the 110, which was basically a 101, but it was fitted with a Rolls-Royce engine, and also you can see how the front end there, the destination blind, instead of being up on the top like a 104, and this being a full-size, you know, window like these ones, it's lower down. Oh, Happy New Year to you, Finiston. So then we got the 120. These are very similar to the 119s, you know, body wise, but the roof is a different kind of, has a different style. No, sorry, the roof's not. Sorry, the cab is a different style. And again, these were intercity units. They were longer distance ones. Then we have the wonderful 123 and 124s. So these again were, you know, these were Transpennine units originally. So they operated from Hull Botanic Gardens. That was their home depot. And at one end they would be like this, with, you know, a big corridor connection between. And at the other end they were like this. And if you look at the shape of it, it basically looks like a class 303. The shape the shape of that's the same. This is largely the same. It's only this big whopping great destination, head code box that makes it different. But, and you can also see how the exhaust was a bit interesting. So Yeah. Now there is an old. I forgot who made it now. It's on the tip of my tongue. Was it Wren? No, not Wren. It's not trying. I can't remember the name of them now. Oh, I'm sounding robotic. That was their home depot. And at one end they would... Oh, I don't know what's causing that. I don't know my voice feeding back to me, so let me just make an alteration to the sound. Maybe that'll make a difference. Okay, so what else? The 126, again, this isn't one that's gonna... I don't think this is one we'll ever see a ready to run model, not unless someone really decides to be interesting. And these had a similar kind of thing, intercity kind of thing. These are what used to do the Glasgow to Edinburgh trains before the 27s top and tail with Mark II Zs with disc brakes, disc air brakes, and which were then in turn replaced by Class 47s and push-pull system, which were then replaced by 158s, which have then been replaced by 170s, which have then been replaced by 385s. So they've had quite a ride. There's been a lot of replacement on that line, on that route. There was the 127 I was talking about earlier. So you can see the red triangle. That makes them different coupling systems. So yeah, and we've already seen one of these from Bachmann. I actually happen to have one, which I'm going to be converting into the ultrasonic test train. Yellow diamond, and there's one with a blue and a green combo. I suggested Bachmann do one of those, but I was told that they tend to like the same colours rather than different. So it's like, I think they're missing a space there. And then there are weird things, things that came before. So things like these were before tops even was a thing. Tricks, thank you, Richard. You're right, Tricks. I couldn't remember who it was. So yeah, these were pre-101s, but mechanically, they were fine. The only problem was that they had a different multiple working system, and it was easier to just get rid of them than it was to worry about getting the spares for them, because they were they were the first Metcam DMUs. Then there's the I forgot what this is now. 129 was it? I think it was. That was a parcels unit. So some engine pictures. So that's just DMUs. When it comes to EMUs, let's just go with first generation EMUs. 302s, 303s. 303 and 311, pretty much the same thing. Unfortunately, every single one of these has little differences. So 307, 302, flat ends but different. 309s. I think if there was any unit that could be that would really sell well, that would be 309s. They were built as high-speed intercity for the Clacton route, and it started off in maroon, some lined maroon, then went into blue-grey, and then they were refurbished with new hopper windows, and they ended up in what was called Jaffa Cake, which was a dark chocolate and biscuit colour with an orange stripe through. built in 2 and 4 car sets, but the 2 car sets were rebuilt into 4 car sets by using standard Mark 1 coaches and modifying them. This is an example of one, so you can always tell the 2 car sets because they've got the pantograph on one end, as opposed to in the middle where on a normal 4 car unit, such as this one here. So these 2 coaches here, that's a CK and a TSO, that were fitted, modified as EMU units. The other thing as well is that they had heavyweight Grizzly bogies. And Network Southeast was their, was the final route as a part of that, as a part of the Clacton route. But when Class 321s turned up, they were able to transfer them away. So they end up with. So first there was a Regional Railways version where they basically kept the blue. They added a little bit more on the end and made the blue stripe and weirdly put the connecting bit there. So all they did was they replaced the red stripe with a pale blue stripe. And then there was this version which was even more silly, which just used light blue, and they haven't even done a very good paint. It's not very neat there. But later they painted them into Ridge Railways Northwest, which is basically Ridge Railways livery, but instead of a light blue stripe, a green stripe. And that was a part of, in the run-up to privatisation, they split all the companies into, into different sectors. So Ridge Railways, which would have, trains all over the country. So everything from Anglia, Northwest, Northeast, Wales, the Southwest, Scotland, because ScotRail was a part of Provincial, and then later Ridge Railways. So when they split them off into different groups, so Ridge Railway Central, which became, which when it went to privatisation became what was it called? Central Trains. Ridge Railways Northwest, which became Northwestern Trains. Ridge Railways Northeast, which became Northern Spirit. And ScotRail became ScotRail as it was its own. Anglia largely kept to the original livery anyway, but it was a separate company. And likewise, Intercity. You had Gatwick Express, Great Western, West Coast Main Line, Intercity West Coast, Intercity Midland, Intercity East Coast, Intercity Anglia. And all, each one of those was privatised off, and eventually, for example, for Great Western Intercity West Coast became Virgin West Coast, and that's what the franchise is. So second gen, I think second gen is something that they could do. I would like to see a PEP type unit, so a 313, 315, 313, 314, 315, and then 455 centre cars, but 507 and 508. Those would be nice to see. Someone does a 3D print one, but it'd be nice to see 3 and 4 car sets done for those. And then the York based ones, for example, it would be nice if Bachmann could do one of these. They got a 150. It's basically a 4 car 150. So yeah, it's 4-car 152. The body shell's exactly the same. It's only the bogies that are different because they got yaw dampers on, and all of it, what's in between. So I think they've got an opportunity to do one of those, and of course it doesn't just work on the, the overhead electrification one. You got the third rail version, which is the 4559s. Sorry, yeah, 4559s. So yeah, so we've got 317, 318, 319s. Bachmann are doing an N-gauge one for the Farish range. Be nice if they could make that into 4mm. 320, 321, 322, they're all the same. 323, that's a unique unit. It's had a number of colour schemes, but 325, I think 325 would sell really well. I really do. It's a striking colour scheme. They've now got 2 versions of it. And I think that's one of those trains that will sell really well. I've seen people do modifications of them, so I think that would be quite a nice one. So I think they've got an opportunity. Oh gosh, my voice does sound a bit horrible, doesn't it? I'm sorry about that. There's nothing I can do about that one. Maybe it's my computer being a bit on the glitchy side. So yeah, I used to see them here in Manchester before they came out with the RailNet system. But there you go. There's 3. Imagine having 3. That you could use together. That'd be kind of cool. I've got 3 on my model list. Whether I get them ever, who knows? But oh, it's kind of jammed again. Another thing that would be nice to see would be networkers. 365s, 465, 466. There's a 466 already. It'd be nice if Hornby could have a little, another play with that and give it a better chassis. Something that's, because the original motor for that is not exactly very good. It's a, like a Scalextric style motor. So it'd be nice if it had one of the more modern versions, like they put on the there we go. So not a great shot. Oh, has it done it again? It's gone stuck again. Because this is one of the York built ones. Come on. Keeps jamming up. It's my computer that's the problem. Come on. Still waiting for it to work its way around. Da 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 da. Okay, well, while waiting for it, so there we go. So yeah, the 365s. These were operated originally on the King's Cross to Ely and Peterborough trains, but some of the first, I think it was the first 8 or something, they operated out of Waterloo. No, not Waterloo, sorry. The other one, Victoria. They worked out of Victoria for a while with Connex, but that didn't last very long. In fact, there we go. Now, interesting thing that's very common today, but these started off the vinyl thing. So having vinyl stuck on the side instead of paint, these started them off, because when privatisation happened, and this went to, went to Network Southeast, Southeast. That became Connex, which was a French company, if I remember correctly. So when Connex started operating, the paint job was still under warranty, so they couldn't paint over it to modify the livery. So what they did was they used vinyl over the top, and that was how they were able to get around having to do it. Well, now of course everybody uses vinyl, so okay, so like I say, what another thing that I think would be nice to see from Hornby or Bachmann is Mark II Bs and C coaches. It's for your diesel electric stuff. It's the only ones that are missing now. So it would be good to see some of those being produced. It would enable people who want to model the West of England route, so the Waterloo to Exeter route with Class 50s and 47s later, before the 159s took over. It would enable some intercity stock to be used, because Cross Country used a number of them on their services, and it was only when HSTs were displaced by Mark IV coaches on the East Coast Main Line that Cross Country were able to push some of those coaches out of the way. But they lasted until about 1992, and some even further. There were some interesting ones, such as I'll have to go right back up here first. So there was some. No, that's not the one. Is it that one? Yeah. So there were some Mark II Bs and Cs that were declassified and ended up being second-class coaches. So these were ex-FKs, because you can see the 19 series numbers. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You see, you can tell by how many windows they've got. And equally, Mark II Cs had it as well. So some were FKs. That's one of my photos. And then there were a number of FOs as well, so at open seating, but they were originally FOs. Some had later windows, like you would find on air-conditioned ones. Other ones had tall windows like these, but yeah, because there was some TSOTs converted. I want to make one of these, actually a couple actually, but yeah, so some had tall windows and others had air-conditioned sized windows. And the way you can tell Mark II Bs and Cs is with Mark II Bs you've got the knobbly ventilators on the roof, and with Mark II Cs they've got a hatch on one end, which like the aircon coaches, and they've also got either small little ventilators on the top, or very large ones. So those are small ones. Small. Oh, wait, there you go. These are the rather large ones you can see there. In fact, I think another place to another good place to point is you can see small ones. I think some of these have got big ones as well. Those are big ones, the Rovaks. So big Rovak ones like this, or small version like that. And these are the kind that you find on these are the kinds you find on City 125s on the ends of the power cars. You know, you got 3 at the end, or on the West Coast Main Line type ones, you got those, but they're the same as on air-conditioned coaches at Mark IIs. So yeah, having B's and C's, that would be nice. In fact, let me show you the B so I can show you what I mean by the roof. You can see what I mean by the normal knobbly, you know, vent roof ventilators. So yeah. so yeah, that's the kind of thing that I would like to see Hornby do, or Bachmann to do. I think once you've got Mark II B's and C's, it will enable people to do a lot more variable stuff. So what are my modelling resolutions this year? Well, last year I really got stuck into other stuff. You know, I didn't do as much modelling as I wanted to, and to be honest, for the previous year I'd hardly done any at all. This year, you know, because I've got other interests as well, and I think they kind of took over a little bit too much. So I've decided that this year I'm going to focus much more on the model railway stuff. I'm going to get more stuff done. I'm going to get more jobs finished. I have, you know, dozens and dozens of half-done projects, locos that are half-painted, you know, body shells that have been stripped, never got around to painting them. So I'm going to start doing that. You know, I've got, you know, I mean, for example, I have a box in my back room which has a javelin in it. Now, javelin's much too modern for my era, but I really do like them. I think they're great looking train. So I bought one for the hell of it. I think I paid £150 for an entire 6-car unit. So, and I bought them, you know, I ended up buying the centre cars before I ended up buying the end vehicles, and I think I paid 25 quid each for the centre cars. So it was an absolute bargain. You know, it's one of those trains that you can get. You know, you can do a whole train, and because it's only a short one, it's not terribly expensive to do, or it wasn't. So one of the projects that I've got planned, and I've got the parts ready. I just need to get a little bit of glazing off someone, 2 vehicles worth, and do some serious surgery, and that's going to be a challenge. But it's going to be an enjoyable challenge. I mean, you know, I can't imagine any problems. It's just a case of how long it's going to take. So it's going to be a longer project than I might normally do. It's more, there's a bit more work involved. Now, just so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a 3-car 150. Now, I put a poll on a couple of Facebook groups recently. You know, sort of like I can't make up my mind what to do. So basically, what I've got is I've got a chassis, and I just need to get the glazing for this and a bit more glazing for the centre car. But I've got a 150 in First Great Western. Sorry, in Northwestern colours. Now, the company that painted this, it was Ridge Railways Northwest. It was a management buyout, but eventually they ended up, handing it over to First, and then became First Northwestern. So, yeah, so this is Northwestern Trains livery. They did a couple of 323s and some 158s in it. Did they ever do any? Oh, did they do a 156? I can't remember if they did a 156 in it. I know there was a dark blue one, but no, I don't think there ever was. Anyway, so I've got this. Now, what I could do, let me just grab one of these out. So some years ago, about 10 years ago now, when the Bachmann 150 first came out, I bought I bought a 2-car set and another 2-car set, and what I did was I stripped down one of the vehicles and its dummy chassis to make a 3-car set, because one of the things they used to do was stick a 152 in between a 151 to make a 3-car set. And I have, let me show you the one that I've done already. Models. So units. So I've already done a 3-car set in Greater Manchester PTE colours. So that's on what is laughably currently my layout. So yeah, it's a 152 vehicle sandwiched between. And what I want is to have a Centro liveried version of it. So if I hello there, Sparky. How you doing? Here it is. DMU, 2nd gen, 150 modelling, and then this one, so 116. So I have another unit, but I didn't really see a point in having a powered vehicle there. So I recently bought, some bits off someone, and that enabled me to do. I could do this. So there were 3 options. I could either do this one, which is easy. It's just a repaint. I can do that in a couple of days. So yeah, that would be an easy thing to do. But I'm a glutton for punishment. So I thought to myself, okay, well, there's another option. I could do 150 001, which was one of the prototypes. Now, one of the things to be noticed about these the prototypes is they were built as 3-car sets. So what happened was, in the early mid-80s, the provincial sector, they said, okay, we want to get some new trains. So what they did was they built 2 of these units and 2 151 units, and there was a competition of which would be the best one to make a production set. And the Brell York one won. Metcam, who did the 151, they ended up making 156s. So ultimately they didn't lose out. But but this was the one that won out, and this is why we have class 150s. So the 150Os were built like this, and you can see how it's got a centre car. So it's just 2 windows, set of windows on either side, set of doors, set of windows on the outside. So it's a very, very simple vehicle. It's powered underneath, but there's not much to it. So this would be a normal, what looks like a 151. However, there are differences. So let me just show you that one will do. So if we look at 152s, 152s have got a powered door here for the driver, for the driver and guard, okay, and it's got a corridor in there. But when we look at 151s, actually the next one's better. With the 151s, they went for an in-swinging door, so the door swings inwards. So this is a hinged door. I wonder if... No, I don't seem to have one. So yeah, so this body is no good. You can't just take one of them and, you know, chop a 152 in half and use them. So I need one with a power door here. And the vehicle I'm doing, the unit I'm doing, is this one, which is the 154 unit. There you go, 154002. And this one was one of the production ones again. Different version of the colour scheme on the end, which was the one that was adopted by Regional Railways or Provincial in the end. But as you've seen, this has a power door. So in order to meet one of these, what I'm going to be doing, let me just turn my camera on. So in order to make a 152 driving vehicle, a Class 150O driving vehicle, is basically chop off the cab here, and because this has the power door on it, and then chop, because you can see that the profiles are the same, so it's not going to be a problem. So basically chop the cabs off there and splice this one onto this one, and that will give me my driving vehicles. And then for the centre car, it will and so for the centre car, I will either chop it there or possibly chop it through the middle there. I'm not very keen on doing it through the middle there. I think I might use the door, because that way the bit that people see the most is the bit that won't, you know, that'll be, it's harder to hide a join between windows because you can't get the file in. Where, I'm sorry, my video is really poor. Maybe it's me. Oh, that's why, it's very low resolution. Okay, it's a bit better. Still 480, which is surprising, considering I've got a 1080p camera. Anyway, so the idea here is to chop these two vehicles there, and of course, sorry, let's try it the right way around. So as to chop these two vehicles there, and then use the spare, and then take this piece and put it there, and that piece and this piece can go in the spares box. I can also use the glazing for this to because on 150s on one side it's got a small toilet which is now vacant on the current things, but I need it to have this kind of window. So I can just take this window and splice it in there, so that's easy enough. So yeah, it's going to be a big project for that one. But there's a little bit more, because when we look at 154002, the reason why it was called a Class 154 is because it wasn't really working in the same way as the 150. It had a different engine underneath. It had a Rolls-Royce engine underneath, and it also had a high-speed gearbox for doing 100 mile an hour, not doing 90 mile per hour running. And because it was doing 90 mile per hour running, let's see if we can find a good shot. There we go. So because it was doing 90 mile an hour running, it had some yaw dampers fitted to the bogies, which stops it from wobbling as much. So yeah. And also the second part is that it's got some big massive ventilators, because it tested the class 158 units. And I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It's not Rolls-Royce engines. Sorry, it was the Perkins 2006 TWH engines, which were the same ones that fitted to some of the 158s, the latter 158s, and on the new 165s that came after those. So, like I say, it's going to be an interesting model to do. Now, I think out of all of it, the hardest part is going to be the painting. Oh, sorry, one other thing. I'm going to have to build the skirting underneath, because the model on the Bachmann 150 doesn't have that. It was something that was later removed. But all the 150Os and 1s had skirting there. So I'm going to have to build that. That's just going to be a bit of plasticard. That'll be easy enough. Plasticard and filing. Now, no, when it comes to painting, I'm going to have a fun time, because if you can see, closely, you can see that it's got this really thin black stripe around the edge of the yellow panel. Oh, that's going to be a cow to do. I mean, you're talking about something that's probably a centimetre thick, half centimetre thick, something like that. And that would be, oh my gosh, that's going to be a challenge to do. I may end up getting someone to do me a transfer that I can use instead. So that's an option. I think that might be the best way to achieve that goal. So yeah, that's going to be fun. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting challenge. There was one more 150, as someone's mentioned, and that was the Tret recorder. And you know, that's changed. So this was the last production built 150, but it was, you know, this vehicle is largely the same as standard 150, whereas this one is a modified one for, you know, Tret recording work. So this is, I think, if I remember correctly, this did ultrasonic work, and then later on it's been fitted with extra gear. So back then it's got this, but I think later on it's, you know, got even more bits and bobs on it. You can see how they cut the cowling away. Now I'm going to be modelling this unit, although the chances of it happening now is starting to get a bit slimmer, and that's because they can go in there. So when it was originally built, it carried a pale blue and red, so that's cornflower blue, which is your Ridge Railway stripe, with the 10 body side and a red stripe. And that would travel all over the country, you know, sorting out any or checking for any faults with the rails. So it had some extensive modifications on the body shell, but it was custom built. And then this is the version I want to do, which is the BR blue and red version. So it's basically blue grey with a red stripe. I'd like to do it like this. The is it PWH, PhD, PDH? I've forgotten now. They do Is it PH? Yeah, PH. There it is. Oh, that's not the one. Okay, that's a bit weird. Huh. Has he not paid his internet bill? It's obviously going there, but for some reason it jumps to okay. Looks like someone's going to nick the website. Oh dear. Hope someone's I hope we can get someone to let him know. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. But yeah, this used to travel all around the country and do ultrasonic testing, things like that. The Derby lightweight vehicles that I've got, that's this unit. You know, Derby RTC managed to get a bunch of Derby lightweight vehicles after they stopped being used. They were non-standard for everything else, but they were light and you know, cheap to operate than locos and coaches, so they just converted them with test equipment in. But yeah, good night, Anseath. So yeah, and I mentioned earlier there is a class 100 that I'd like to do, which is the Stout and Saloon. So it was a Cambridge, I think it was allocated, class 100 DMU, and it was the Eastern Region Manager's Saloon. I mean, you can think of it, think of the colour scheme. That's basically painted like a class 142. So there is one interesting thing that I find with a few types of unit. What is it with the end here that makes it look like someone's taken to it with a shotgun? I'll show you what I mean. If we look at 108s, 108s I've noticed have been particularly prone to this. So we just go flicking through. There you go. Got a big dent, you know, and you find sometimes you get, you know, just this weird, like, dented panel sometimes. Bound to be here somewhere. Maybe it's one of the ones, the later ones. So I've got long sight ones. Well, there's one. Like I say, it looks like someone shot it with a shotgun. There's another one. There you go, there's another one. Look, you see how it's got these little tiny lumps? Bit of patch painting over it. But I don't know why that, there you go, there's another one. Just lumps, little tiny lumps. It just always confuses me as why they've ended up like that. Plymouth ones. There you go. See what I mean? It's a weird, like I say, it looks like someone shot it with a shotgun. There's a bit of one there. There's another one, quite a bit, quite a dent in the front of in the front. I mean, what is it? What was it? There we go. See, there's another one. What happened? Was it guys getting in and coupling it and knocking it with their, with their feet? How did they end up like this? Look at that one. Quite a mess. Oh, that one's an interesting unit. Oh, sorry, it's before it was interesting. P828, formerly a Buxton set, which, because they had the black around the windows, but they had a yellow cab, but this had been painted black. Wait a minute. That's High Wycombe. Yeah, later one of the vehicles caught fire, and so they ended up replacing it with a there you go, like this, P828, and it's got a 101 vehicle on the end there, so it's 108, 108, 101. And P870, this is a 101, 108 set. So if you wanted to do this, take the two pieces. But there you go. There's another one, shotgun. So, like I say, just sometimes they'd get into a real mess. But yeah, so like I say, that's my that's one of my modelling projects for this year, to get these to do this 151. Sorry, try again. 150O. It'd be nice to have one of those. How about you watching now? I've got 10 people watching me. I can't believe you're up this late watching me. What have you got planned for this year? Any projects that you would like to see turn into reality? Oh, and of course, something that I want to really get stuck into is continuing on with my class, my class 33 rebuilds, because I'm not doing one, I'm doing 10. I did discover a little bit of a problem recently, so I did a class 26, which is currently being loaned by Denver class 47. And excuse me, I'm just going to get some juice. So the class 26 I noticed that you couldn't really see through the body side grills and the roof grills very well. The resolution, effectively they were just too thick, and I really wasn't happy that I couldn't see through it, through the mesh, to see the detail. So I spoke to my old friend Brian at Shoreplan, who made the edges for them. I said, look, is there any way you can do a version which has like a third of the mesh grills? And he explained how actually there's two versions of it, because since he did the drawing, since he produced the first batch, which I had a set of, he's going to make the company that does the etching for him. So he does the drawing, sends it off to them, and then he gets it back. Good night, Philip. So he mails off the drawing. They do the etching for him and then send him back, a big sheet of them, which he then chops them to pieces and then sticks them into individual bags for when he sends them off to places, to shops, to some go on eBay, but on his stand at shows. And he said that the people who do the etching, they've got a new, better system where it's got effectively the. If you don't know how etching is done, so when you get when it's done like nameplates or something like that, so the way you have it is you have your outer sprue with your nameplates on. Let's just use nameplates because they're easy to explain. So what happens is when he does the drawing, he colours them in. So anything that is black will be eaten all the way through. Anything that's red is half etched. Anything white is full height. So if you imagine your brass is this thick, just use it, as a cross section. Something that's half etched will be half the thickness. Anything that's full it's fully eaten, goes straight through. So when he does the drawing, he sends it off, and what happens is they. Do you remember Polaroid photos, where you'd stick it through, you'd peel it off, stick it in, and then it would come out. Well, what they've got is a big sheet of photoresistant paper, effectively, like a photo, because it's called photo etching for that reason. So you've got a picture, and it's made like a photograph, and then so they stick it on acetate or something like that, and then what happens is they put this on top of the brass, and then they expose it to ultraviolet light. It imprints it onto the brass, and then they stick the brass in acid, and anything that's fully black is eaten. Anything half etched is would be red or something, and then anything full etched is white. And so the acid would do what it does. It would eat half of the red stuff. So you've got half etch and the full etch. So things like your tabs, where it connects to the sprue, the little tabs that go on the end, those would be half etched, and the gap around the words would be octal TTAs. That'd be nice to see. I like the sound of that. They've got some really interesting wagons. They do. Some of the there's a few of the European ferry wagon type ones as well, which are kind of cool. And what are you going to do? Have VDAs on either side with a brake van, because that's usually the routine they'd use them. So what happens is they've got a new photo etching system where it's got much better definition. Think about it like the resolution of a screen. They used to have 480 and now they've got 1080p or something. So now you get much better resolution, and as a result, the lines, instead of being like a quarter of a millimeter thick, which works out quite a big thing in real life, it's much finer. So the new version that he's done, and I've got one set of them, you can see through them better than the originals. So I've asked him if I can swap, get some, exchange some, and he's like, yeah, that's not a problem. So at the moment, 150 thing is slightly on hold at the moment while I get some new mesh for the parts. So that's so it's nice to know that he already produces what I need, rather than waiting for him to produce something that doesn't exist yet. And my suggestion to him at Worley was to have a third less lines for the mesh. So where you've got vertical and horizontal mesh, just to have a third less of them, so that you can see through it more. So it'd be like, sacrifice the realistic number of lines, but to be able to see the detail inside. Because I've done all the extra work on the detail, but you can't really see through it, which is disappointing. So when I get the 26 back from Dave Class 47, I might get some extra, get some new etches to stick on the side. But yeah, I've gone and lent him a whole bunch of things. I lent him stuff that was that I've written magazine articles in the past. So I mean, if we, in fact, let's on one of his last videos. You can actually see some of my models there. Oh, I've been streaming on the wrong channel. Damn it! I've been streaming on my regular channel, not my Model Railway channel. How did that happen? Oh no, sorry. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm an idiot. I'm not paying attention. I'm subscribed to my own damn channel. That's what went wrong. I hope. Let me just double check. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, silly me. Oh. Okay. Let's just knock the sound off. I think yeah, so if I just change this so these wagons here are mine. So that's kind of nifty. And let me just show you what. Oh. Models. My models. So what I've lent him is 10 of these. This is the first magazine article I wrote. Yeah, 31296 Amlich Freighter, and the nameplates ended up being swapped to 47330. So yeah, so I got 10 of these, 7 in that colour scheme, 1 in that colour scheme, and 1 in the old, sort of grey with the red stripe at the top. I lent him that, which I've modified with some better low. I modified the load with some code 75. One of the problems that I had was, if you look, this was code 100 rail, spare code 100 rail that I had, and I glued each rail down, and then this is Phosphor Brand's pickup strip that goes to the ratchet points. All this was modified because when you get the bow rail, you don't get anything that's got the yellow on. All you get is the decking and the stanchions blocks. Well, what I did was I added all the yellow stuff around and made these ratchet points, which are just made they're just made from the same phosphor bronze stuff you got there, that's been bent to a square C shape, fitted into notches, and this is a piece of 1mm rod. But like I say, I've modified it with thinner gauge rail, and the reason why I ended up doing it was because so code 75, where this is code 100, and what I did was each one was glued on, super glued on, but in putting it in a box and taking it about, some in a box, out of box, in a box, out of box, effectively the brittle glue broke, and so I ended up with, you know, loose rails sort of sliding up and down. So what I did was I took it all off, you know, removed it, filed it all down, got some more rail, but code 75 this time, because when I build my layout I'm going to be using code 75. And I used some brass underneath to connect all the rails together, so it's one big block of rails rather than individual ones that are stuck on. You can see, look, it's even lobbed over there. And then the second train, you know, the second version I followed it up with was this, which is the one I just showed you in Dave's video. So, you know, sorry about the redacted thing. It's got my old mail name. I don't really want that out there anymore. So, but yeah, this was Rail Express from, when was it? May 2012. So, yeah, and you can see this is the real wagon, 209.54, and you can see 209.54, and believe it or not, this is a tiny amount, this is a tiny transfer. These numbers, which were put on individually, and there's a reason why they're a bit wonky, because it's hard to even see them, these numbers are about, they're less than 1mm tall, so you can imagine it was quite a handful trying to decal that. But, you know, like I say, underneath this time I went and soldered all the rails together so they wouldn't wobble around. And that's the other article I did, which was that was Southeast RBR, no, RMB, sorry, Buffy. And as far as I'm aware, I was the first person to do one of those. And for extra work, I made it a dual braked version, and I even fitted things like the extra steps on the bogies and things like the footsteps here, and electric train engine plugs and sockets and things. Although these were white metal pieces which don't exist anymore, I've now got a new way to make them. And so now for this was the last project I did, and it was converting a newspaper van, and so I got some new plugs and sockets and things on that. The brake piston here had to be moved from the inside to the outside. You can just about see them underneath there. It's got some it's got some air brake pistons, so it's a dual brake vehicle, which is why it's an NCX. It's got some strip at the bottom, because one of the problems with Mark 1 coaches is they ended up with the corner from the sole bar to the vertical body side. Water used to sort of sit in the bottom there, and it was things like you know, badly fitted grommets in the windows, so the water would go like that and just trickle down, you know, so under here it would get particularly corroded on the corners, so they would, you know, stick some new metal on, weld it all up and fix it that way. It's also got some vents there. These are window frame etches from Shoreplan. A set of doors there has been plated up, the same here, and then the guard section here, that door has been plated, as is that one there. And that's because on the real thing they moved the lift, they put lift up tables inside, and you know, so they removed the brake section there, the brake section there, so the guards compartment, which will have the handbrake wheel, and so they relocated the handbrake wheel underneath. So like I say, it's got dual brakes, and then some, you can just see some extra detail there. That's the this component there, that's the air brake distributor, but annoyingly, the Bachmann model doesn't have the sort of 3-piece here where the pipes come out and through. So I had to fabricate that out of some plastic card, and then just fit some paper clips, because that's all this is just paper clips, to just make something look about right. So yeah, it came out quite nice. And one thing I do like about it is, one of the things they would do is they use them for newspaper traffic, and for things like dual braked ones. The vacuum brake ones were less likely to survive, but the dual braked air brake ones, they would just start reusing them. So because they weren't in newspaper traffic, they'd either peel off the stickers, which was kind of hard work, or they would just paint a bit of fresh blue-grey, BR blue, over the top of there, and of course gradually over time you'd see it showing through a little bit. So yeah, that's I'm quite proud of that one, and I've got another 3 to do as well. So yeah. Now, while I think about it, don't forget, if you look at my previous video, I've got a competition going on right now. You can win one of 4 prizes. There is a book on Class 50s. There's a formations sort of bookazine type of thing, and there's a dogfish hopper wagon, a kit. And then finally the biggest prize, which is when I need to get round to finishing it, which is what I'm going to be doing this weekend, which is this Class 73, a Lima. It's a Lima model, but I'm going to be fitting it with headlights. It's going to have a DCC socket inside, so you could just plug a decoder in. The cheap Hornby 8249 decoder it's going to be designed for. So you just plug in your decoder, have your purple wire, just solder it on, and then this will have working lights, headlights and tail lights. No cab lights, sadly. It's got I actually went to quite a bit of effort with this, because you can, if I hold it up, you can see me through it. It's got some etched grills, and you might just be able to see me. You can see me through there as well. I'll put it there. So yeah, so it's got the body side grill there, the roof grills, the roof grill there, this main grill here, and that one there, and that one there. So these are all etches that I've cut holes out and glued them all in. You can see on the inside here. So yeah, this is going to be the grand prize. Like I say, this weekend I plan to do the electrics and stick on the numbers, and then put on the handrails. So yeah, yeah, I've already done a little bit of work on the front. Let me just drag this down for a second, and if I turn off the autofocus and find, oops, okay, okay, I should let it go. You can see the lamp irons are separate pieces. Oh, this is really difficult. Let's try again. Yeah, can't really see. Okay, let's hit the autofocus button. There we go. It'll focus back on there. So yeah, that those are the 4 prizes that are going to be available. We're only 4 days away now. It's now 1:04 in the morning, so it's sort of 4.5 days. But yeah, about 8 o'clock, I think it is, 8:30, that kind of time. On yeah, you can put sound in it as long as it's got a 4-function decoder. Yeah, that'd work fine. In fact, if it's got a 4-function decoder that's not the Hornby one, use the Lock Sound 8-pin decoder ones. Then, as long as it's got 4 functions, you'll be able to use it and just press, whatever button you want to have the lights on. With the Hornby 8249 decoder, which is just the cheap, it's a cheap one. It's good. It's a good one though. It can do an amp, which is easily enough. So I've used it on a number of my models, and the way that it works. So this is the number 1 end. So on my Lens 100 set, what happens is when I press 0, the headlights are on in the direction of travel, and then you just press 1 or 2. So if you press 1, the red lights come on in the number 1 end. If you press 2, the red lights come on in the number 2 end. And so you can actually have red lights and white lights on at the same time, which would look extremely odd with this, because the way that I'm going to have the headlights for this, I'm going to have, let me find a picture because it's easier. Loco Electric 73. Okay. So the way I'm going to have it is this will have the normal white plain blinds. So it'll have the headlight on, and these will show up in a sort of a yellowy white colour, because I'll just have some paper. I'll basically paint with some black matte paint the black area, and just leave a space for some white paper behind it to diffuse it. And then the idea is that behind it will be an LED, and when you press when you change the lights, you press your button to get the number 2 end on here, and that will make it'll be a bicolor LED, so it'll show either yellow through these, or it will show it'll show red. So you can just press number 1 on on the controller I do. At the moment, the couplings are just going to be I'm going to leave the standard tension lock couplings on, which it already is fitted with. But there you go, you can see one with the red there. So yeah, there you go, it'll look like this. So it'll have white, but when you shine a red light through the white pieces, it will show them red anyway. So yeah. Now, one of the things it's not going to have when you get it, whoever wins, will be the BR arrows and depot plaques. The reason is because this is a freebie, and I'm giving away the model for bits that I don't want anymore. I don't need them. I've got the new depot model, so this is something that's just sat in my spares box. It's sat in the not going to use this anymore. So as a result, it makes sense to to just give it away. And because I'm giving it away, I'm not going to use up things that I do need, which are things like the depot plaques and arrows. So as a result, if you want them, you can fit them yourself, or when you win, you can buy some, get them mailed to me, and I'll fit them for you. So either way, it's up to you. But it'll look like this. I haven't even decided which number it's going to be, 110, 107. So there's a number of options. There's 110. So yeah, and the reason why I've chose 110 is because then it doesn't have a nameplate. But like I say, this is this is me giving away something old, but I'm going to be modifying it for the modern, the modern world. So effectively, it's a 20th century model with a 21st century upgrade. The only thing it hasn't got is a new motor. And believe it or not, the Hornby motors are the Lima motor that this is actually really good when you put a DCC chip in it, even a cheap one, because the 8249 uses PWM, which is pulse width modulation, and the idea with pulse width modulation is that instead of if you can imagine a sort of a graph where you've got the amount of current that it's getting and the amount of speed that it's got, it has a kind of a curve, it's got a line. And the problem is that with the old-fashioned motor and the old-fashioned just applying current to it, what would happen is that if you can imagine the torque to get the gears all going required, it's a bit like a bicycle. Think of it, your bicycle, and it's in mid-gear or something. It takes a fair amount of energy to push it over, to start it rolling. And once you get going, you're okay. Well, same works with a motor. So when you've got the energy, it's basically wanting to turn, but it requires enough energy so that it's got enough to go now make all the cogs turn and all the wheels turn. So what happens is you'll end up with loads, your power will go up and up and up and up until it gets to the point where it's got enough energy to kick it over. And then suddenly, no, it's not going to happen. I mean, I could fit KDs if you win. I can fit KDs. Happy to do an extra bit of modelling. So there's enough room. Yeah, there's enough room for KDs on that. I could fit KDs on the end of it. But no, they're just stuck to the chassis. It's just a swinging mechanism. But it can be fitted if you wish. And by the way, the Lima model was one of the best Lima models ever. One of the most realistic in terms of shape and size and for the form of it. It was one of the best ones for accuracy. But anyway, so what happens with the motor? Once it's got enough energy to kick it over, it's suddenly racing off, because the amount of power to keep it going at that speed is a lot less. You can just reduce the speed and have it crawling quite nicely, but you can't just turn the knob to, let's say you got the knob that goes from 0 to 11, because of course 11. Let's say 2 is enough to have a nice slow creep. To start it, you can't just stick it up to 2 and it will just start creeping. With today's models, yes, but back then, no. So, but it might be 5 before it suddenly, before the motor has enough power. It has enough enough current to kick the motor over, which would then start going at 5 speed. Whatever speed, so let's say it's like that speed. Now, with a decoder with PWM, which the Hornby one has got, instead of and not only that, you could get it with certain controllers, like that, the old knob style controller, which just delivered current to the motor. You used to be able to get PWM version of that, which was better. I used to have one of the handheld controllers from Pico. Was it Pico? No, GaugeMaster, sorry. One of the GaugeMaster handheld units. I gave it away ultimately. Well, when the idea with PWM is pulse width modulation. So instead of putting a graduated current on as you turn the knob, it would just stab it with lots of power. So it would give it high power up to that 2, so it would like peak pulses to get to that 2, and that peak would be enough to kick the motor over. So the motor would go start, it'd have enough power to go thump and get the motor spinning, and then it would reduce the current enough that up to 2 to have it doing that crawl. So, like I say, it's gonna the motor will be will be refurbished. I'm going to clean it up and make sure the cogs are clean and everything, is good running. And I'll put lights in it, a DCC socket. So all you have to do is plug in your chip, make sure the orange is in the right corner, which I'll have marked, and then it'll have a little tab at the side, which will have a solder point, and I'll have a bit of solder on it. So all you have to do is stick a soldering iron on, put your wire in, let go, and that's it. And just stick your decoder down somewhere on the motor or something, and then there it is. It'll be ready to run. So you can either leave it with a plug in it and run it under DC, or you can stick a DCC chip in it and it'll run. The red lights won't come on under on one end with normal DC on, but with DCC it will. So yeah, that's basically what you'll get if you win the main prize. And I've got another one in my spares box, in my in a drawer, that I can give away when I get to maybe 1,000 or something. So I'll probably do the same thing. The one that I've actually got is the Pullman one. I've got a Pullman body and chassis, and I've got the model that's the Pullman version. I think when it came out it was like 50 quid, 55 quid or something like that, so it was expensive. But so yeah, but my main thing that I want to try and do this year is get more stuff done, rather than talking about model railways, doing model railways. I've got some projects that I've got lined up for other people, like Anita, for example. I've got a locomotive and some coaches that I'm doing up for her, painting them up, and I've got another person who wants me to do some modelling as well. I'm also going to be available for doing repaints. So if anybody wants something repainting, anything in the British Rail stuff I can do really easily. Stuff that's in the privatised stuff, it'll take longer because I don't have the paints for privatised colours, so I'll have to acquire them. I have to get them, and sadly the paints that you can get are usually enamels, and enamels take way too long to dry. I haven't painted with enamel paints for I don't know, about 15 years now. I've been using cellulose paint because this was painted. I mean, this livery, complete with the orange stripe, I had that painted in an evening. Or during the day. I think I started about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I was done by tea time. So I can get that stuff done in very, very quickly, because cellulose paint dries almost instantly. Literally, to do this, so I sprayed the did I use it? I think I did the grey and then the yellow. Yeah, I did. So I sprayed on the grey, then I masked off to do the yellow. And when I say I masked off, I painted the grey and then masked off for the yellow, I literally came in from my spray booth. I took, and then I put masking tape on the paint that I put on less than 5 minutes ago, and I don't have to worry about it peeling or bits creeping in the corners or whatever, because it goes on much thinner than enamels and acrylics. Acrylics I can probably do better of because they dry nice and quick. Enamels just take a day for each colour to dry. On this there are 5 different colours. Black, executive dark grey, which includes the fans and body side grills, yellow and the grey. And of course things like the body side grills,
well, I might paint the roof, but I can't mask all of it off at the same time. You know, places like here, for example, where you've got that little gap of yellow, that's a bit harder. But like I say, it'll be great when it's done. Like I say, once it's got the handrails on, that body will look 10 times better. It's amazing how much, you know, some numbers and some handrails make a big difference. So, yeah, what else? Is there anything else to talk about? No, I can't really think of anything at the moment, which is kind of unusual for me because I talk too much. But yeah, I can't. Yeah, I think, like I say, getting the 150 done as a project. I don't think it's something that I'm going to do as a. I don't think I'll video it because it's a big project, and you know, if I was going to do something like take the 150 and put it in original provincial livery, so for example, DMU 150. So if I was going to paint one in the original provincial colours, which has the skirting at the bottom, you can see how here it's got the skirting all here, and then in fact, actually I got a better one where I can show you. 133. So here is 150 133 with the skirting on, and there it is in the GMPTE, Greater Manchester PTE, the new version, with the skirting, and then later it's been removed. See if we can find a better. There you go. You can see how it's been cut away at the bottom there. So yeah, the Bachmann model looks like this. So if I was going to do something like repaint it and stick the skirting on, then yes, that would be appropriate. But you know, for the way, there you go. Oh, it's got the skirting on, yeah. So yeah, I'm doing 3 150s in Greater Manchester PTE colours. I'm doing 150 133 like this with the skirting. I'm doing 140 as a 3-car set, with the centre car in the middle, which I've already showed a picture of in this video. And then I'm doing 218 in, and I think that's in the wrong place because that's 216, and then 218, which used to be split and put in the middle of a 2-car set at 151. But yeah, 218 and that, yeah, that's 216, isn't it? Yes, that needs to go in there. But yeah, so 218 and other stuff that will go with it, if these things ever appear, will be 305 in, oh, wrong way, wrong one. Oh, there we go. So 315, that's right, 305 510 in GMPT livery, which I've already got a model of. I just haven't, I got a kit of, I've never got around to finishing it, or building it rather. And if they ever do any, some I'd like to have a couple of these as well, 323s. I love 323s. They're my second favourite EMU. So yeah, it'd be nice to see those. These do my local line. I get on these all the time. The first one has just been repainted into northern colours as well. I've got a picture of it on my desktop, but I haven't gone and moved it into it yet. But let's look at drains, flicker. Um, 323, 238. And the first one has been painted in northern colours this last month. There you go. So there's another livery that I've added to the 323s, and they've carried quite a few, believe it or not, and variations of as well. So you've got main colour scheme. So as I said, originally there's the original Centro livery, which is this one, which you can just about make out. Has a little thin lemon yellow stripe in the white there. Yeah, you can make out the yellow stripe a little better there. So yeah, and oh, and something a little interesting about them. It's not really interesting. So something interesting about the colour scheme. So this blue, a lot of people I've asked, and they think, oh, it's Ridge Railway's light blue. You know, the cornflower blue you'll find on Ridge Railway's livery with the dark blue around the windows there. No, it's not. This is actually arrow blue, which is when you had station signage and it'd have like an arrow pointing off to like toilets or platform 4 or whatever. That's where you would. That's what the arrows were coloured in. But yeah, they've got this lemon yellow stripe in the middle of the white, and they've got, you know, the livery goes all the way up. And then there was a midpoint when the lemon yellow stripe, once this opens up, just wait for my hard drive to wake up here. Or is it hung? It'll appear in a minute. Come on, what's it doing? Is it hung again? My computer's hung. Great. Come on, computer, wake up. Come on. Oh, okay, it's back. Right. So, sorry about that. My computer doing weird stuff again. So then there was the second version of Centro, which had yellow doors because they needed to have the doors coloured brightly enough so that partially sighted people could find them. Which is why all the trains these days, the doors are different colours. So there was that version. So that's basically the same livery but with yellow on. And then you saw the Great Manchester PT liveried ones already. And then under privatisation, there were the first colour scheme was North Western trains. And there we can just about make out North Western trains there. There were two of these. There you go. You can. There you go. You see North Western trains. So this was the management buyout of Regional Railways North West, and this was the colour scheme they went for. So it's got stars on the doors and this big gold star band, you know, gold band at the top being a star at the ends. I thought this colour scheme was quite nice actually, and 158s carried it. Also a class 321. In fact, since I'm here, I might as well show you. 322. And no, that's Northern. There's Northwestern Trains. So yeah, there was I think there were 2 sets painted in Northwestern Trains colours, and these would work from Manchester to London with a limited stop. I think they stopped at like 4 places. Before then, they used a pair of 158s in those colours, going down to London. So they go from Victoria, and it was like £20 to go to London, which was a bargain at the time. What do you mean? What are my thoughts on 321s? I think they're adequate units, very good. Ran brilliantly well over the years. It'd be nice to see a model of one. I mean, you can get the Bretchel kit, which is nice. It's the one kit of his that actually is correct, because the cost, although he's done different body shells for different types of units, all the underframe components are ones that he only ever did the class 321 underframe. So all the other ones you're gonna have to scratch build. So you've got a 319 or a 456 or other things. Then you got to modify. You got to scratch build chassis parts. Maroon colour. Oh, anyway, I'll finish with the 323s. So there were only ever 2 painted in it. 323233, which had Northwestern Trains lettering on it. However, the unit had a bit of a bump. Had a collision with 323224, and as a result 2 vehicles were damaged and they had to be sent off to repairs. And so in order to have a unit that didn't have like 2 Northwestern Trains and a Greater Manchester coloured one, a GMPT liveried one, they vinyled up one of the vehicles from 323224, so they could get a unit back in service. Otherwise they'd have 2 units that didn't work. But when they got the vehicles back for repair, they now had 1 vehicle from 224 that had Northwestern vinyls, and the rest of the train which was still in GMPTE, so they did the rest of the unit with vinyls as well, and here it is, there's 224. And the way you can tell the difference is that it doesn't have the Northwestern Trains logos on. So yeah, so that's the reason why you ended up with 2. In fact, it's possible that there might be a picture of no, I don't seem to have one. I was wondering if I might have a photo of one that's got Northwestern Trains logos on, but no. Oh well. So there was that livery. Then we ended up with First, with their Barbie colours as their nickname. And I quite liked that livery. It had pink in it. It was cute. But I like again, as I mentioned earlier with the 180s, I like the blending on them. I think that's a nice touch. That's one of my photos after which they'd First had lost the contract, and so they were now they'd removed all the First logos. But yeah, I liked the colour scheme of this. I think it was quite nice. I like the the stripes on the front. Didn't like it like that, but that was one where they'd had a bump or something and they replaced the cab. So I think that was the last one actually in service in those colours. And then they went to Northern Rail, which most of them are still in. That was all vinyled up. And what's amusing about it is that if you look in certain places, there's a little hatch at the side. Is it? Where is it? Oh, by the way, there's the testicular cancer moustache logo on there. They would put these moustache logos on because it was like Movember. And one thing you don't see in Manchester is pairs of 323s together. The only time you see that is in the evening time when they couple a two together to take them down to the depot. But in service, I've never seen them run in service with two units together. Never. Oh, actually, tell a lie. Once. And that was when they had a service going to from Piccadilly to the Old Trafford Manchester United Stadium station. There's a little station down there, just up the line. And then, as I showed you earlier, the what's the livery? So when it comes to the Centro ones, they went from Centro livery into this, which I think I quite like. I think it's a nice colour scheme. I like the way the units are curvy, and I like the way that this enhances the curves. You know, instead of being square and straight, it's just got a nice curve, and everything about it just seems to curve. The ends curve there. The only thing, everything seems to have a curve on it, with the exception of the doors. So I do quite like that. It's a nice colour scheme. And then they've now started to paint them in this new horrible, dull colour scheme. I find it quite uninspiring, to say the least. It's this sort of browny mauve puce. I don't even know what it's hard to describe what the colour is, but it's not very interesting. Likewise with the I think I've got some of the 350s. It's like this new colour scheme that they're going to put the 350s in. I just think it's dull. I also don't like just that little bit of yellow on it as well. I quite liked the yellow ends like that. So yeah, not so keen. Nice bit of rainbow though. They're okay units. This is what the 350s were delivered in. The reason why they were delivered like this was because at the time they weren't sure about the franchise. It was going to be owned to someone else. So they didn't actually have a specific colour scheme at the time. So they just appeared like that. And that's one of the things that really frustrates me today. I find some incredibly dull colour schemes. This one's okay, this one's good. I like this one. But if we look at some of the new stock, if we look at, let's look at the Class 700s. So these are the Thameslink units. Wow. Yawn. It's grey. It's an off-white. You can see there's some white bits on the end, but it's basically an off-white grey with blue doors and a dark coloured roof, and that's it. That's boring. Just dull. I can't express how boring that looks. You know, there's so much, so much you could do with that. Imagine a version of something a bit like Network Southeast with sort of blue there and then a big chunk of red that goes all the way down the bottom or something, sort of big thick chunk of red with just blue. So blue, bit of white, just thin bit of white, and then red, white and blue, because it's going through the centre of London. I think that would be okay. But the colour scheme's just Dullsville. I mean, at least with the, at least the 707s, they've got a bit of colour on them. But, like I was saying, they've got these bits on the end. But honestly, that is a better colour scheme. At least there's something going on with it. Whereas just, boring white. Oh yeah, the 710s. They're a bit better. Again, at least they've got something going on with them. So it's almost like the person who came up with the liveries just went, I don't know what to do with it really. Same goes with these. I do hope they're going to put some colour on them, because this is just an off-white unit with some blue doors. It's incredibly dull. These I'm not very keen on the colour scheme, but at least it's got something going on. So yeah, I mean the Transpennine, Transpennine, yeah, that's a good looking colour scheme. The only thing I don't like about it is give me some yellow on the end. Just have yellow there. That would be just fine. I like yellow ends. Call me old fashioned, it's just how it's been. So yeah, I find that a bit dull. So yeah, I mean the Great Western one, I don't mind too much. That is a rather somewhat dull colour scheme, but at least it's not just plain white. So there you go. Now there you go, that's okay. So yeah, they've got this rather, like I say, it's plain green with a cheat line in it, and then it's got I don't really see it there. They've got a matte part that's like a piece that goes like that, that is matte. There you go, you can just about make out the matte parts. This part is gloss and that part there is matte, so at least it's got a bit of a breakup there. What colour's that? Oh, that's a javelin. That's not even in the right place. That needs to go down there. 397s. I think they look quite nice. So these are replacing 350s on the main line. I've seen about 4 of them so far, maybe 3. I'm not entirely sure. I've seen at least 3. But I can't tell what the number is, because when you go past the long sight you can barely even see the numbers. Whether they may not have fitted them, I don't know. So as a result, I haven't actually been able to, although I've seen several, I haven't been able to spot them as such. In fact, that's what they look like. So if they're black numbers or something, I don't know. But yeah, the ones I saw at long sight were rather plain. Sorry, not plain, what I'm talking about. Unnumbered. 385s, they're not so bad. Oh, is that 395? Sorry. Now, funnily enough, oh, I haven't actually marked one yet. The new Aventa colour scheme, That's not so bad. Oh gosh, yeah, Caswell, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think I've got, is that one of these diesels still? Yeah. Did I put one in yet? Uh, 175. Yeah, dull, incredibly dull. It's off-white with some red on it, and it's like, oh, come on, stripes, swooshes, anything to just break up the big lumpy chunk of white. And the thing about it is, or off-white, the problem you get with something like this is that this bit gets filthy. It can. It's only if you wash them every night. The problem is, at this time of year, that can be a bit of a problem washing them, unless you're going to get someone with a, with a big mop kind of system, where they put it in water and splash it on the side. You end up getting something that gets filthy, because at this time of year, when it's cold at night, the carriage washers can freeze. I remember many years ago, I remember going down to Ipswich, and I went to one. Just wait for that to open. I hope it's not frozen again. Yeah, my computer's frozen again, damn it. It's frozen. Well, if you can hear me, I think the Northern livery is incredibly dull. At least it's got a little bit of something at the end and the, silly little logos on. But at least it's got something going on. But generally it's just white and off-white. And it's like, dull. Just dull. There we go, right. So you might wonder, why am I just changed to this aeroplane? So this is Memphis Belle, or Fate Memphis Belle, I don't know. Anyway, it's a B-17 Flying Fortress. Now, B-17s were painted in a couple of colours. One was natural metal, the other one was olive drab, which is what this is. Now, what do you think? What colours, if you were to get some paints and mix them together to make olive drab, what would you use? Now, a lot of people will think, oh, green and brown or something like that. And, that makes sense. But it's not accurate. The actual colours are yellow and black. When you mix yellow and black together, you get olive drab. And so if you remember, I was saying about the Ipswich trip. This happened in January, I think it was, and it was freezing cold at night. I think there was a bit of snow that week, and as a result, they couldn't clean the trains because the carriage washers, which would normally, when the unit goes into the depot for just basic servicing or cleaning inside or whatever, when they would go in, the first thing they do is stick it through the carriage washer. But the carriage washer was frozen up, so as a result, they couldn't do any cleaning, and so the trains were getting dirtier and dirtier and dirtier and dirtier. And so I had a little, I went to Ipswich, and there was this train here, and it was absolutely filthy. You know, I almost wrote on the side of it, if only my girlfriend was this filthy. Something I'd seen elsewhere, but I thought was funny. And you can see how much muck there is. You know, it just wasn't getting cleaned. And one end just had crap all up the front. It was filthy black on the end. And my joke about it is that it's, you know, the ends were so black that it turned olive drab. Look, you can see the colours there. That's olive drab. That's yellow and black. That's yellow and muck up the front. So it just looked awful and just filthy. I mean, even the windows, they didn't even bother cleaning those, so people couldn't really see out through the murk. You'd think someone would just like get a sponge or something and just, you know, give them a quick rinse in the morning or something, you know, between services or whatever. But no, never did that. The only place that got a cleaning was the front ends. And, you know, so, yeah, like I say, it did make me chuckle. There you go. You can see how filthy that is. That's just terrible. So, yeah. And I was reminded of something a moment ago as well, and I can't think what it was. There's another train thing. One good thing that's happened with the 153s I discovered recently is that one of the franchises has decided that they're going to, you know, give them a refresh on the inside and a new toilet because they've got to be the disabled access toilets. So where they've gone and done the toilet, they've gone and put the cycle area on the opposite end, because previously the cycle section was over here. The cycle section was over there, and unfortunately, when they did the refurbishment, they made it a bit on the cramped side. So if I just show you what I mean, 153 details. So when they first introduced 153s, so they've got the old end and the new end. So this is the old end, this is the original cab, because if you don't already know, 153s used to be class 155s. So let's grab these units. DMU second gen 155. So so there used to be 35 of these, so as a pair of units together. And the 155s were basically express sprinters, or semi-express sprinters. They haven't got yaw dampers, so they're limited to 75 miles an hour, but they were, you know, longer. The doors are on the ends rather than in the middle, which means that you know, they do the more express routes. So they were doing things like Manchester to Cardiff. They used to have class 33s, then 37s hauling coaches, and then they went to 155s, and then they went to 158s. Now it's 175s, which now go through to Carmarthen as well, if I remember correctly. Let's just take a drink. And so so they made a bunch of these by British Leyland. Had a bit of a glitch in them that the doors kept opening on, you know, like when not in stations, you know, when travelling, which was a bit of a problem. So they had to do a modification to them. They got them back in service. They were fine. But when they, you know, what happened was things like the 121s and 122 bubble cars, you know, single car DMUs, the 1960s stuff, they needed to replace them. So it's like, well, what do we do? Do we use 142s? Well, though, you know, especially in places like Cornwall, they tried that before, and they used to scream their way around the tight corners on the Cornish branch lines, and they ended up replacing them, you know, brand new 142s, and replacing them with 1960s stuff, 1950, like late 50s, early 60s DMUs, 108s, 101s, that kind of thing. So what happened was, as things needed to be replaced into the early 90s, it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do about replacing those old trains? So what they decided to do was buy more 158s, and then take these that, which 158s replaced, so doing things like Manchester to Cardiff, Cardiff to Portsmouth and Weymouth. Let's take these, split them in half, and make them into bubble cars. And they can do two things. They can either run singly on branch lines, or we can chuck them on with a 156 or 158 or even 142s or whatever. And for when the rush hour's happening, we can stick an extra coach on it and make it a longer unit. Ease some overcrowding problems. So it made sense to do it. Unfortunately, they kind of screwed it up a bit. They should have done a bit more work than they did. And so what happened was that they so you ended up with the 153s, and what they did was, if we look here, they took a 2-car unit, they plated up a couple of windows in the toilet door, and then and fitted a toilet in one of the vehicles. Good night, Anita. Yes, speak to you later. So they took one vehicle, and they, because one vehicle had a toilet in already, so they plated up the end, plated up some of the windows. They put the exhaust system so it goes through and it comes out at the top here. So it's the conduit for the exhaust is on the inside of the unit, and then built a new cab on the end. So just drilled some holes for some new windows, stuck on some wipeout lights on it, and there you go. That's pretty much it. Well, one of the problems happened was, if you look, this is the old cab, and you can see how much distance from the door to the end there is. Whereas if we look at the new end, you can see how it's so much smaller. So what happened was, the wall partition was here, and it started off with the Heaton drivers. They blacked them. They basically said the unions refused to use them, because if this unit was in a collision, this will be shoved forward. But it was not only was it basically uncomfortable that you'd have someone with their back against the wall and their knees, uncomfortably stuck under a little tiny dashboard. It was just totally uncomfortable for them, and so they refused to use them. And so the ultimate fix with it was to basically move the partition further back. So if we look closely, you can see there's the wall. So if we imagine going cross section, it goes like that, goes down, and then goes across. So if you imagine there's a door there into the cab, if you imagine we're looking vertically on it. So imagine this is the cab, okay? So imagine there's your driver there, there's your guard second man seat, there's the corridor connection here in the middle. So, like I say, there's the new partition. So they went and put a piece that goes diagonally across like that, down, and then there, and then you've got the door in there. So you can stick it to another unit and make it a longer train. So you got that. But they went and put the bike rack there, so you've only got 2 feet between that, and the door handle, because there's a handle there. You can just see the pink handle. So you've got to try and get a bicycle through that gap and go 90-degree corner to get it under here, because there's like a luggage area there, with the luggage on the top, bike rack at the bottom, kind of thing. And it was just totally unusable. I as much as I love 153s, the interior is awful. So so it's like, can't use that if you've got a bicycle. So there you go. That's a 156 and a 153, and you can see how much. I mean, personally, they should have just built a new big cab on the end, so it was like that big. You know, they could have just removed the entire cab, built a new one, fabricated a new one on the end, and make it bigger. That would have been easy. But no, they didn't do that. They just cheapskate version. So yeah, so that's the history of the 153. Oh, by the way, nameplates that they had on 153s in Ridge Railway's time, and the Regional Anglia ones, a bunch of them had nameplates, and they made out their dots to create the picture, which is kind of cool. I thought that was quite nifty. There were a few of them like that. So yeah, that's another little bit of history for you. So since I've now only got 8 people watching, and I don't really have that many people watching, we'll watch later. I do get a number of people watch later. So so I'm going to finish now. Like I say, don't forget, if you want to take part in my competition, which finishes on Wednesday, so Wednesday, you know, about an hour before, I'm going to leave it until I'm preparing for my live stream. So, at the moment I've got a list of names, and at the moment I think it was 19. Let me just double check. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17. I only have 17 people that have taken part so far. So only 17 people have emailed me, the answers to the question. So the question on the previous one, there's on the video underneath in the description. Excuse me. You got the question. You got the email address to send it to, because I don't want to give out the answer. Sorry, I don't want someone else to get the answer right and then everyone else go, oh yeah, and then they just all fill in the same one. I'm trying to get it to be a proper competition where people have to actually, figure it out. There's two answers to 2 questions. 4 answers for 2 questions. So, like I say, only got 17 people so far. And since there's only 17 people, and Jason at Barnabas Junction has taken part, there's a fair chance that he's going to win, because for some reason he seems to win a lot of the prizes. People can say in fix, but it's just all a coincidence. But so like I say, there are people. There is only 17 people. If you want to win a prize, 4 prizes available. I've got a dogfish kit. I've got a book. Let me just lean over here. Okay. So I've got a dogfish kit. Hasn't got any wheels. It needs wheels. That's all. And you probably want to get some couplings as well. I don't remember what they had for couplings. I've got this very, very useful. In fact, out of all the prizes, I think this is the best. So there's this Formations Handbook from Rail Express magazine. There's this Class 50 Haynes manual, which isn't really a manual at all. It's just a book about the history and stuff like that. I bought 2 at the time, and so it's got a list of the numbers, got a list of the okay, well, that's a bit interesting. So which one was it? Was it Lion? I think it was. There's a list of what day they were topsed. So I think it was 27. Or was it 28? No, it was 27, exactly as I thought. D427 became 50007 on the day I was born, on the 8th of January 1974, because when I did my giveaway, strangely, normally when someone has a birthday, which is, it will be my birthday on the 8th of January, which is the day of my giveaway. Normally, when someone has a birthday, people give them presents. Me, I'm giving stuff away. I don't understand. I must be crazy. But, yeah, let's have a look. Were any other one done that day? Day before, 50009. No, just 427. So D427 became 50007 the day I was born. So yeah, and then it's got the refurbishments. I'm guessing it's probably got the withdrawn from traffic part as well somewhere. And I was there. It was a Saturday, if I remember correctly. I was there when 16 Barham was withdrawn. Is that it? No, it's named dates. I would expect there to be a withdrawal date part. No, has got some technical stuff in there, which is nice. But anyway, it's a good little book. I bought 2 copies. I bought one for me, and I bought one for the competition. And I bought this ages ago. I bought it in the summer. Liveries, refurbishment, doesn't have withdrawal. Bit surprised at that. Oh, but yeah. So there's this book, and then finally a class 47, which I've just got to finish doing the work on. So it needs to have numbers, handrails, then the body shell's done, and then I'm going to be putting new lighting in, a system in it as well. So headlights, tail lights, and a headlight and the roller blinds. So it'll be white or a yellowy white or red. So, yep. So, like I say, only 17 people have joined the competition yet, and so as a result, it means there's a high probability of you winning a prize. I mean, let's have a look. You got just over 1 in 4 chance of winning a prize. That's really good. So yeah, it'd be nice to have more people join in, but just takes a little bit of research. So yeah, so that'll be announced on the 8th of January, about 8 o'clock, I think, maybe 9. I'll be going live, and so just before I go live, I will check my email, and if there's any new answers there, then I will add them to the list, and then I've got a link ready in my in my temporary link bookmarks, and I will then put all the names in there, and then press the button, and then it will jumble them through, and I'll end up with 4 winners. So, like I say, it's all going to be very exciting, I hope, for people. So, if you haven't joined that competition, it's the last video on this channel. Go and have a look at it now. The question is in the description. The email address to send your description to is there as well. And so, like I say, about 8 or 9 o'clock, somewhere around about that time is when I'll start the live stream, and I will announce it live on this channel. So have a good night, everybody. For those who've been watching live, listening to me just ramble on about stuff, I don't know why you do it, I just ramble and ramble and ramble. I presume people find it interesting enough that they will watch it eventually. But I can imagine why people look and they go, oh, 2 hours, I don't think I'd watch a 2 hours or 3 hour video. Now, I just like to talk. What I really would like to do is have people join me. You know, I can put the link out so people can join, a group conversation, because I enjoy that kind of thing. Talking about model trains with other friends, that's great. We do it at shows. What's the difference between doing it over the internet as well? So anyway, hopefully I'd like to do one of those one day. But for now, it's going to be a good night for me. Thank you very much. Thank you, Scott Malcolm. Thank you, Casrael. So have a wonderful evening and have a wonderful couple of days. And I will see you again on the 8th. Bye-bye.